And welcome to the County Council meeting that's taking place on Wednesday the 28th of January 2026. This meeting is being broadcast live to our YouTube channel. Can I extend a warm welcome to the members of the public attending the meeting and to those viewing online. For those in attendance, you are very welcome to attend and observe proceedings. However, I request politely that you do not disrupt the meeting. Could I ask everyone in the chamber to switch off or make silent their mobile phones and all other electronic devices, please. Before we commence with the items of business, it is with great sadness to formally report the death of the former Durham City Councillor and Durham County Councillor, Alderman Paul Taylor. Paul served the Brandon electoral division of Durham County Council from 2008 to 2025 and previously served on the former City of Durham Council between 2003 and 2008. My condolences go out to Paul's family, some of whom I was able to meet when I was able to present him with his honorary alderman certificate shortly before he passed away. It is also with great sadness to report the death of former Durham City Councillor Philip Wolstenholme, who represented the Newton Hall area on the City of Durham Council between 1983 and 1995, and then again from 1999 to 2009. His funeral would take place on the 9th of February at 1 p.m. in All Saints Church at Newton Hall. Can I ask us all to stand for one moment's silence, please? Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Thanks very much. Item 1. Presentation to Honorary Aldermen and Alderwomen. Colleagues, at the extraordinary meeting of the Council held in December, you unanimously agreed to confer the title Honorary Alderman and Honorary Alderwoman status to former councillors in recognition of the eminent service. Members will be aware that there were another 5 councillors who left the council in May who would have qualified for the status of honorary alderman or alderwoman. However, they had been previously awarded the title by one of the former borough or district councils. These councillors were Kevin Ely, Lucy Hovels, Bill Kellett, Watt Sterling and Alec Watson. I would like to place on record our sincere thanks to these councillors for their service. It now gives me great pleasure to invite some of the new recipients to collect a certificate of confirmation. I will call each recipient one by one to come and collect their certificate. Each former councillor will collect his certificate and then be photographed. Yeah. On behalf of the Council, I would like to thank you all again for your service and for representing the Council and your communities for many years. It's a real achievement. Well done. Item 2, minutes. Can I have a mover, please, for the minutes from the last council meeting?
Chair, can I move the minutes, please?
And the seconder?
Chair, can I second the minutes?
So this is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of December 2025. Are the minutes agreed? Thank you. Item 3 is a declarations of interests. Does any member wish to declare any interest in relation to any item of business on the agenda? I'll take that as a no. Moving on, we're on to Chair's announcements. Over the Christmas period, I attended 5 carol services across County Durham. From children dressing up to reenact the nativity, to choirs singing well-known or obscure carols, to disadvantaged and disabled people eager to take part in the celebrations. Each was wonderful in its own way. Christmas is more than just a celebration of the birth of Christ. It's an opportunity where people from all walks of life can come together and hopefully realise how important companionship and kindness are to every one of us. It offers us a time to understand and attempt to be the best person we can every day of our lives. It's a goal few of us achieve, but we all need to try and then try again. So I'd like to wish you all a happy new year. And if I can finish by a quote from Howard Thurman, theologian, minister, philosopher and civil rights leader, worship at its best is a social experience with people of all levels of life coming together to realise their oneness and unity under God. Thank you. Right. Colleagues, I'd like to remind you that robust debate is part of the democratic process. I would ask all members to respect the views of others and not to point fingers during debate. I would also remind members that it is not appropriate to shout at other councillors across the floor during debate. We have microphones which allow everyone to be heard, so please use them when speaking. I've been asked to clarify the council procedure rules in relation to points of order and points of personal explanation. Points of order may only relate to an alleged breach of the council procedure rules or the law. If you wish to raise a point of order, you must indicate the rule or law that you consider has been broken. A point of order can be raised at any time and will be heard immediately. Where points of order are raised once a ruling has been made on advice of the Director of Legal and Democratic Services, it will not be revisited. A member may make a point of personal explanation at any time, and a personal explanation may only relate to some material part of an earlier speech by that member, which may appear to have been misunderstood in the present debate. Explanations in relation to statements made outside of the debate are not permitted. Where points of personal explanation are made Once a ruling has been made on the advice of the Director of Legal and Democratic Services, it will not be revisited. Please bear in mind these definitions before seeking to raise such points to ensure that we do not disrupt the flow of debate. I now move on to item number 5, which is the Leader's Report. May I invite the Leader of the Council to present his report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can I check, is this microphone, is it picking up my voice at the back? Yeah. Good morning, everyone. This is the first time we've met as a council, full council, since Christmas. Hope everyone's had a lovely break. 2026 is set to be a busy year with a lot of work to do and a great deal to look forward to. Preparations are already underway, well underway, for this year's festival and events programme, with favourites such as Bishop Auckland and Seaham Food Festivals and Brass set to entertain people yet again this year. Kilhope, and no, I'm not referring to the opposition, Kilhope, our award-winning lead mining museum in Weardale, will also be reopening this spring following a major restoration project. And in the summer, our latest cultural attraction, The Light, will open its doors to the public. The Light will stage internationally significant exhibitions of contemporary art. There will also be a dedicated DLI gallery telling stories of the Durhams through objects, documents and film footage from the DLI collection. And with facilities for hosting private events and conferences, The Light will support the game-changing ambitions of the Durham Innovation District right here in Akeley Heads. 2026 will be a year of new beginnings and a year in which we continue to celebrate the heritage and traditions that make County Durham so special. I'm looking forward to working with you all to deliver the best possible service and outcomes for our communities. Thank you, Chair.
Do any members have any questions on that report? No? So then can I ask the Council to note the report, please? Thank you. Item number 6 is questions from the public. As I'm aware, there are no questions from the public for today's meeting. Item number 7 are petitions. There are no petitions for consideration at this full council meeting. So moving swiftly on, we have item number 8, which is the report from Cabinet. Can I ask the Leader of the Council to present the report, please?
Chair, I table the report as set out in the agenda pack and ask Council to note it.
We have no questions that have been received regarding this report. Can I ask the Council to... Sorry, Councillor Wilkes.
I think we're treating it at item 15 on questions from members rather than on the Cabinet report. It wasn't clear that...
Just a moment, Councillor Wilkes. I'm sorry, Councillor Wilkes, we don't seem to have a question regarding the report.
It's the Cabinet report from the 28th of January. Sorry, not 28th of January, that's today's date, but last week's Cabinet meeting won't appear till next time. So the items on the Cabinet report for today, from the 17th of December, there's the poverty strategy and the Q2 forecast outturn.
I'll have to come back to it later on when I've found the exact part that's there quite clearly in the Cabinet report for today, because I did submit it, I sent it through. I also copied in Councillor Hopgood.
Just to clarify, Councillor Wilkes, your question is on the agenda, but it's on for item 15.
Chair, can I just say I've got the email here that was sent on Friday by Councillor Wilkes, on Cabinet Report item 2. That's in addition to the member question. So he has got a member question, but it's totally unrelated. It's gone to the member questions email that we're told to send it to.
We can only apologise for that, Councillor Wilkes. If you submit the question, we'll speak to you outside of the meeting if that's acceptable.
I'll find somewhere else to bring it up on the agenda.
Thank you. Can I ask the Council to note the report then? Item 9 is the appointment of independent members to the Independent Remuneration Panel. Can I invite the Director of Legal and Democratic Services to present the report?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. The Local Authorities Members' Allowances England Regulations 2003 require that the Council establishes an independent remuneration panel, or IRP, which must consist of at least 3 members. The role of the panel is to make recommendations to Council in respect of the Members' Allowances Scheme, and Council must have regard to the recommendations of the IRP before making any changes to the member allowances. In 2019, the Council appointed an IRP of 5 members. 3 of those members had their terms extended in March 2024 until the 30th of September 2025 to enable the development of the member allowance scheme for 25-26, which took account of the local government boundary review and the reduction in members. Following the review, Alan Fletcher indicated his intention to step down from the panel, but the other 2 members, Ray Morris and Joyce Drummond-Hill, expressed an interest in continuing. However, we dropped below the required number of 3. Therefore, following consultation with Constitution Working Group in July, we undertook a recruitment process and we received 4 expressions of interest, which resulted in 3 applications. And the criteria for being a member of the IRP are set out at paragraph 6 and 7 of the report. The interviews took place on the 9th of January with the Corporate Director of Resources, myself and the Democratic Services Manager. All 3 candidates were extremely impressive of the interview, had a good understanding of the role of the IRP and demonstrated the skills and experience relevant to the role. We have amongst the new members 2 former magistrates, an employee of a housing association and existing members with audit background. All members demonstrate a commitment to public service and to give something back to their communities. Therefore, Chair, we recommend that all 3 of the new candidates are appointed. That's Claire Bailey, Paul Burden and Clement O'Donovan, together with Ray Morris and Joyce Drummond-Hill for a 4-year term from 2026 to 2030. We're also seeking delegated authority for the Corporate Director of Resources to undertake any mid-term appointments in consultation with the Leader and Deputy Leader to ensure that any disruption to any ongoing review activity is minimised as a result of any vacancies. And finally, Chair, I would invite Council to thank Alan Fletcher for his contribution over a 10-year period to the IRP between 2015 and 2025. And with that, Chair, the recommendations are at paragraph 5.
Can I ask for a mover to this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. As has been set out, the Council is required to appoint an independent remuneration panel, and it plays an important role in reviewing the Council's member allowance scheme. It is pleasing to note that the Council received such a strong response to the recruitment exercise. The proposed reappointment of former members of the panel will also provide continuity, and the new members will ensure the panel has the required numbers to undertake future reviews of the members' allowance scheme. I am happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder to the report?
Chair, I'll second that report. In seconding the recommendations, can I recognise the commitment of all of the proposed appointees, but in particular those proposed for reappointment? I'd also like to place on record our thanks to Alan Fletcher for his contribution to the panel between 2015 and 2025. And with that, I formally second the recommendations.
Thank you. Does any member have any questions regarding the report? Does any member wish to speak on the report? Can I ask the Council to agree the recommendations set out in the report, please? Item 10, the adoption of the Startford Neighbourhood Plan. I call on Mike Allen. Can I invite the Strategy and Delivery Manager, Regeneration, Economy and Growth to present this report?
Thank you, Chair. This report recommends that the Council adopt the Startforth Neighbourhood Plan, which, when adopted, will form part of the Statutory Development Plan alongside the County Durham Plan, the Minerals and Waste Development Plan document and the 10 other neighbourhood plans adopted to date. Startford Parish Council have been working on their plan with the help of council officers since 2017, and it passed independent examination in September 2025. The Startforth Neighbourhood Plan, as part of the development plan, will be the starting point for determining planning applications within its area and includes 4 policies that introduce a new settlement boundary for the village, designate 14 important local green spaces to be protected from development, identifies 7 locally valued views, and protects 2 valued community facilities at Startforth Morritt Memorial Community Centre and the Holy Trinity Parish Church. The Parish Council have undertaken a number of rounds of consultation, and a referendum was held on the 18th of December 2025, and of those that voted, 93% were in favour of the neighbourhood plan. The Council are required to make or adopt the neighbourhood plan within 8 weeks of a positive referendum in order to meet our regularity requirements. Therefore, in this instance, the plan is required to be made by the 13th of February 2026. Chair, that concludes my report, and the recommendations are set out in paragraph 4.
Thanks very much for that. Can I ask for a mover to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report confirms the Stratforth Neighbourhood Plan has received the support of the local community at referendum. I am therefore happy to propose that the Stratforth Neighbourhood Plan is formally adopted by the Council to become part of the Statutory Development Plan. I therefore propose the recommendations set out in paragraph 4 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have a seconder to the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The report identifies that the neighbourhood plan will provide bespoke local policies for Startford Village. The group have been working on the plan for a number of years and have reached a positive conclusion to their plan. I therefore second the recommendation set out in paragraph 4 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, is it a question or is it just to speak on the report?
Just to speak, Chair.
Right. I'll first ask, is there any member got any questions regarding this report? No? And I'll call on Councillor Bell, if you'd like to speak, please.
Thanks, Chair. It's not a contentious report, but just to say, as has been mentioned, the community has been working on this for 9 years. Not just the Parish Council, there's a big group of volunteers put an awful lot of hard work into this report, into this plan, and that just needs to be placed on record. And I'm sure Councillor Campbell, who now represents Startford, I represented it until the boundary changes last year, joins me in welcoming this. How much weight local neighbourhood plans like this have as government seeks to dilute the role of councils and councillors in planning, we will wait and see. But at least Startford stood its job to protect itself, and in that regard, it should be congratulated.
Thank you, Councillor. It is an achievement. They've done well. Thank you. I now call on item 11, which... Sorry, my fault. Can I ask the Council to agree that the recommendations set out in the report? Thank you. Sorry. Item 11. It's an updated local code of corporate governance. Can I invite the Corporate Director of Resources to present this report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. This report provides members with a copy of the updated Local Code of Corporate Governance, as considered and agreed by the Audit Committee on the 26th of November last year. The Local Code of Corporate Governance sets out how the Council fulfils its requirements of the Delivering Good Governance in Local Government framework and how it discharges its statutory duties with regards to ensuring it has proper arrangements in place for the governance of its affairs. This document and the underpinning policies and strategies and arrangements it refers to are reviewed on an annual basis by our external auditors as part of the review of the annual governance statement. The code is attached at Appendix 2 to the report and is structured around the key governance principles of behaving with integrity, demonstrating strong commitment to ethical values and respecting the rule of law, acting in the public interest, defining and delivering outcomes, ensuring openness and comprehensive stakeholder engagement, managing risk and performance, and ensuring we have the capacity, capability and leadership to deliver. There have been no significant amendments to the statutory or best practice guidance that need to be addressed or reflected in the Local Code of Corporate Governance this year, and the last major changes were made in 2016. So the code this year is once again, the amendments have been largely superficial to bring it up to date in terms of linkages to new strategies and policy statements and to build in areas where arrangements have been strengthened. Following consultation last year, there has been an addendum update to the Delivering Good Governance in Local Government framework for 2016, which will need to be reflected in our annual governance statement for 25-26 and reflected in the 2026 Local Code of Corporate Governance that the Audit Committee will consider later this year and form part of the report I'll deliver to January's Council next year. The recommendations which are for Council to receive, approve and adopt this updated Local Code of Corporate Governance are set out in paragraph 28, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask a mover to this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the officers for bringing this report forward and also thank all members of the Audit Committee for their oversight and review of the updated Local Code of Corporate Governance. The Local Code of Corporate Governance is an important document. It sets out how, as a council, we comply with the principles of good governance, how we organise our decision-making and processes to ensure that we act in the public interest at all times, how we ensure our decision-making is underpinned by robust risk assessment, and how we ensure that decision-making is transparent and accountable. It is the statutory requirement for the Council to adopt one and for it to be reviewed and kept up to date on an annual basis. This report therefore helps maintain our compliance with those statutory requirements, something that our external auditors review on an annual basis. The updated code as appended to this report has been reviewed and agreed by the Audit Committee on the 26th of November last year. On that basis, I am happy to move that we agree the recommendations as set out in paragraph 8 of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask for a seconder for this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This document sets out how the Council seeks to adhere to good governance principles and is supported by our annual governance statement, which accompanies our annual statement of accounts and is reviewed by our external auditors on an annual basis. It is a statutory requirement that the Council's Local Code of Corporate Governance is reviewed on an annual basis. Given that the Audit Committee has considered the outcome of the annual review at its meeting on 26 November last year, and we are contented to continue to comply with the best practice and that the changes made were appropriate, I have no hesitation in formally seconding the report.
Thank you. Does any member have any questions regarding this report, please? Right. Does any member wish to speak regarding the report? Councillor Maven.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Rick Maven, Belmont Division. My comment and question relates to A2, demonstrating strong commitment to ethical values. The second bullet point under 411 refers to the LGA's Debate Not Hate campaign. Can the leader or deputy leader confirm if the council is still signed up to this, and if so, have they read it?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm we are still signed up to it. It's on the screen there. I don't know if the member has good eyesight or not, but it is right next to him. I have read it, yes. And I wonder, actually, given a lot of the things said online about so-called racists and fascists and all the rest of it, if the Liberal Democrats have read it too.
Councillor Wilkes.
Thanks, Chair. It actually seems potentially like a more appropriate location to bring up the question that I'd brought up under the previous papers. The report refers to scrutiny in a lot of sections, actually, and at members' corporate overview and scrutiny meeting back in December, the MTFP savings plan for the coming year was also considered, and a large number of comments and concerns were raised about the budget plans by members from across the political spectrum. However, as confirmed in scrutiny last week, none of the comments from opposition or the reform backbenchers were referred to or considered by Cabinet, which is unprecedented. Given that this is the case, it has me wondering how the public can have confidence in scrutiny and our corporate governance code. And I'd like to hear some guarantees from the leadership that of this council that you will review all the concerns that scrutiny have raised, both from opposition members and your own members, at that meeting and at all future meetings, as the Code of Governance would normally expect.
Do you want to reply, Mr Darby?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Wilkes. The report that was at Corporate and Scrutiny Management Board last week was the report that was at Cabinet on the 21st of January. That was an update report on the MTFP. There is a report going to Cabinet on the 8th of February, where, indeed, the report on the 21st did include CUSMB's comments on the September report. The comments on the November and the January report will factor into the report that will go to Cabinet on the 8th of February. So Cabinet will give that full consideration in determining their final proposals to put to Council on the 18th.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Chair, Councillor Martin of North Lodge and Chesley Street. 7 months into the Reform Party's leadership of this council, and we're approaching the first budget, and now that we have the evidence and reassurances of this report, along with that of the recent corporate peer review, can we hope or expect that the leadership will now acknowledge that despite pre-election claims to the contrary that this council has always had robust, transparent audit and reporting systems in place?
Leader of the Council.
I think, Chair, can we just start with a point of order, just for, we're talking governance and transparency and clarity. Can Councillor Martin actually confirm what ward he represents?
Councillor, it's not a breach of the rules to announce what he's doing.
I'm just after some consistency.
We'll oversee the consistency.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. To mislead and lie is a point of order. Now, if somebody is saying that they represent a ward in Chester-le Street, is a lie. It's not correct.
We'll just take a step back, please. Right. North Lodge, the council has actually acknowledged that he's a councillor for North Lodge and Chester Street. It's, I mean, really, we're just picking at things that aren't really that important. The important part is, if someone could answer the question that Councillor Martin's put forward, please. By the way, I don't say anything funny in this mind, please. So just allow the councillor to answer the question that was put to him by Councillor Martin, please. Thank you.
I think we'll arrange a written response for the Councillor of North Lodge.
Okay. Can we have Councillor Rob Croot, please?
Thank you, Chair. Rob Croot, representing the Blackalls and Heseldens divisions. And really, it's a question about how robust this code is and the protocols within it. Because quite rightly, it's written through with reference to maintaining ethical standards, to promoting politeness, and with reference to limitations of behaviours. Now, it specifically mentions in that section of the report in 4.9 that there's a protocol, in this case, between members and officers, but there's a protocol that applies to all other parts of the council and its partners. Now, it says that it may be considered, the protocol may be considered if there's any contention. In my opinion, that should be, it must be considered. It's no good having a protocol there if it's an either-or option, whether you consider that protocol. If there are any complaints, any issues arising about any breaches of the code or any protocols within it, then surely it must be compelled that you refer to that particular protocol or the code. So it's about the robustness and how far we can rely on this to deliver what it says. Thanks, Chair.
I call on Helen here to reply to that.
Thank you. Just to provide reassurance, if we were to receive a complaint against members which encompass the provisions of the protocol on member-officer relations, for example, we would consider that in preparing the report for the Standards Assessment Board. And within the Member Code of Conduct, there is a requirement that members comply with the policies and procedures and legal obligations of the Council. So if a failure to follow one of those policies, procedures or protocols, etc., could amount to a breach of the code. So we would look at those protocols in preparing that report for the Standards Assessment Board.
So can I ask the Council to agree the recommendations set out in this report, please? Item 12, which is the overview and scrutiny 6-monthly update. Can I invite the Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Management Board to present their report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members, I'm John Cook, Chair of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, and I represent Craghead and South Moor Division, just so you know, I know where I represent. I didn't actually expect getting up so quickly. I can't believe it, in 40 minutes we've got through 12 of the 14 items on the agenda. Since Christmas we've all become cattle auctioneers, and this is catching us a little bit off guard, but you've got the report in the pack. I'll do you the credit of assuming you have all digested it thoroughly, so I won't actually present it to you, but I'll give you a few elements of a personal touch in regards to what we've been doing over the last 6 months and where we're thinking we need to go as a direction of travel moving over the next year. One of the first council meetings we actually had, quite a beautiful term from a previous chair or deputy chair of Corporate Overview, and that was parity of esteem between Overview and Scrutiny and the Cabinet. It's a lovely term, and I think we've built that in because we hold Scrutiny as such an important role that we'll actually put our own people as chair and vice chair to run it, and that's not about control, that's about responsibility. But conversely doing that, we also get told we'll be marking our own homework. But then the reason I don't need to present the report to you bit by bit is because between the Corporate Overview and its 5 thematics, there are more positions on Scrutiny than there are council members here to fill them. So we have to double up. And it's done on a proportional representation basis, so everybody is marking that homework, and I'm sure it's done fairly, effectively, and also in public. So that's the important thing to consider. We do have a programme of work that we follow, it's how we set the agenda for each thematic committee, and that's what we're there to do. Another point that was raised at a previous council meeting is that we're here to hold the Cabinet to account. Well, scrutiny, I don't think that's exactly true, because this committee, the County Council, is where we hold the Cabinet to account. It can overrule decisions of the Cabinet. Scrutiny can't do that. We can make recommendations, we can call in and ask for further evaluations, but we can't change that decision. But what are we there for then? It's a good question to ask. What are we there? Because that will set the direction. Well, the council, we're here to govern the operations of the county council. But we can't do that ourselves. I mean, between 98 of us, we couldn't get the bins in, even if we worked round the clock. So we have to delegate that. We have to be an employer. And the specialist items like children and young people's services, we couldn't do that. We need specialist, skilled people to do it. And when we delegate those tasks to other people and they do those jobs, we then have to then scrutinise it. We have to make sure that it's following the law, that it's consistent with the council plan, and that it meets the aspirations of the people we represent. So that's what we have to do. That's why we do it. And that's why a lot of the reporting that we get is on the operations and performance of the council and its different directorates. Now, we've had a lot of change since we've come in since May. We've got a new council plan, we've got new leadership, and a lot of things are going on. So it's fair that we try to reflect that and update our practices as well. So we want to try and be more aligned with the directorates of the council and meet the objectives, the 5 primary objectives in the council plan as set out. So it's important that we change that in the coming year. Also, I've noticed, and not just from myself, but feedback going back nearly a decade in reports, that members on scrutiny will consider that having lots of meetings is not the same thing as being productive.
1 minute, councillor.
Thank you. I'm nearly finished. So what we need to do in future is we do want to move to more intelligence-based and a risk-based and intelligence-led function, where we can scrutinise things more in depth, and that means working groups and task and finish groups to underpin what we're doing and look elsewhere. The peer review gave us a good report, but that's based on the outcomes framework that they have. There were areas that we don't look at, and people have, from different committees and different groups, have fed back to me where that needs to be. So I'll be looking to build those in to the future plan of work going forward. So when that comes to council, I'll hope you will approve it then, and I hope you will accept the report of the 6 months update from scrutiny without any questions. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, councillor. Are there any questions to this report? No. Councillor Wilkes, do you want to speak as a question or as... No. Does any member want to speak on this report, please? Councillor Wilkes first.
Just very briefly, Chair, as Vice Chair of Environment Scrutiny, myself and the Chair come from completely different political views and backgrounds. But actually having a Vice Chair and a Chair from different backgrounds, I think has actually really quite helped us to make sure that we have a committee which is doing a great deal of really good work. What I would say is, just to follow up on a previous question in this meeting from myself, that it's really important with scrutiny that we do always ensure that Cabinet are receiving information from scrutiny about what us as backbenchers, no matter who we are in this room as backbenchers, feel, what our concerns are and what our suggestions are. And whilst I believe that our committee that I'm with Councillor Catchpole on is doing some great work, I still have some concerns which we need to iron out about making sure that Cabinet are receiving those concerns, and I hope that over the coming 6 months that we do dumb down on that and really make sure that we get that message across to Cabinet, because every single person in this room who's on one of those scrutiny committees, regardless of your politics, needs to be heard.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Wilkes. It has been already answered, so I'm not certain what you were trying to do there, but Can we now have Councillor Croot, please?
Thank you, Chair. Speaking as the former chair of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, I'm pleased to see that parity of esteem has been maintained. If you look across the country, any well-functioning, healthy local authority, you'll see that they do have parity of esteem between the Cabinet or the executive function and scrutiny, whether that's in terms of officer support, whether it's through the Constitution. You need to maintain that, and I'm pleased to see that that's happened. Following on from Councillor Wilkes' comments about the politics as well, I've heard people say to me that scrutiny isn't political. Well, it is. It's very political. What it isn't is party political, and I think we've maintained that ethics as well, that we leave party politics at the door when we go into scrutiny. There was one point I would raise from what John said, and that's about conflating this idea of holding the Cabinet to account with overturning decisions. We all know the function of this Council and the function of Cabinet, where they make decisions mainly here on finance matters, on the recommendations of Cabinet, but we know that the Executive, because it's the Executive, do make those decisions. Yes, the Overview and Scrutiny Management Board or its thematic committees can't overturn those decisions, but they do have the power to invite members of the Cabinet into scrutiny. And the last time I checked in the Constitution, unless it's changed, we can actually compel members of the Cabinet to come to overview and scrutiny. And I think that's a powerful tool, not to drag people into the room kicking and screaming, but to bring those two parts of the Council together. The two very important parts of the Council, and we shouldn't be seen to be going off in different directions. There's a divergent path here, and I think the way we run scrutiny and the way the Executive runs itself, they've got to go hand in hand. So we know that we can't overturn Cabinet's decisions, but we can make them think again. But more importantly, we do have the power, and I don't like that word power, because you're not going to drag anybody in. We have the power to invite people,
1 minute,
members of the Executive, into scrutiny to explain those decisions, and I think that helps the Executive as well to add clarity to some of the decisions that have been made. So I'm quite happy with the report. I support it, and I'm pleased to see that we are maintaining that parity of esteem between the Executive and the scrutiny. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chris Lyons.
Thank you, Chair. Chris Lyons, Sedgefield Division. I'd want to back up what I've just heard from Councillor Wilkes and Councillor Croot. I was Vice Chair of Scrutiny in the previous administration. I think both councillors make very strong and good points about that parity of esteem and having that mix of chairs and vice chairs. I think Councillor Croot's absolutely right that scrutiny is political but not party political, and I think actually in the last 6 months we've managed to maintain and sustain that, and that's really important. But I do think that, you know, if you look at the 4 principles of scrutiny, that holding the Executive to account is kind of part of that. It's a very important part of that, and it's inferred and almost more than implied. And we need to continue doing that. Scrutiny does not run the Council, that's very clear. But, you know, in terms of, you know, the principle of scrutiny about improving performance, we can make suggestions to Cabinet and to the Executive. And in the previous 4 years, and before that, I'm sure too, we did, and changes were made. There might have been tweaks, but they were important tweaks, and that's important to continue that. And my final point, and these aren't questions, by the way, Chair, I know we're on to comments now. My final point is a brief one about working groups and task and finish groups. I agree with those in principle, but the bulk of scrutiny should still be in the formal setting of scrutiny committee meetings, because they're held in public, they're minuted, and they're a formal process of this council. And I think it's really important to sustain that for transparency purposes and for good governance. But otherwise, I concur with what I've heard from Councillor Wilkes and Councillor Croot, and thank you for the report, Councillor Cook.
Thank you. Councillor Lyons.
I just want to make a comment, that's all really, thank you, Chair. It's just to say that actually we do have Cabinet meetings. We do have Cabinet meetings and not many people actually attend them. So if anyone wants to really ask any questions about the Executive, I suggest they do turn up to Cabinet and actually ask them questions. We are fair and transparent and we do like feedback, so please do come along to the Cabinet meetings. That's where you'll probably get more answers.
Thank you. Can I ask the council to note the report, please? Thank you. Item 13, the appointment of chairs, vice chairs of committees and subcommittees. Can I have nominations for the appointment of chairs and vice chairs of the committees and subcommittees listed on the agenda?
Point of order, Chair. Just regarding the wording on item 13.3, I panicked slightly, so I thought I resigned from the General Licensing Committee. Can we have the word sub put in there, please? So on the General Licensing and Registration Subcommittee 2, I've had taxi drivers ring me up asking me why have I resigned. I know it's
Chair, just to clarify, we are looking for appointments for the General Licensing and Registration Subcommittee 2.
Does that help, Councillor Kidvig?
Oh yes, I know I haven't resigned. It's just that I've had taxi drivers asking me why I have resigned because the wording on the agenda doesn't have the word sub in there. That's all. I know it's a bit of pedantic. Yeah.
It's just a typo, or I can assure you haven't been sacked yet. Thank you. Councillor Ryan.
Chair, I would like to move the nominations on the screen. Come on. Yes, thank you. That's all, thank you.
Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Cathy Hunt, Wonwick, Hunwick, Wellington, Bransmith and Orkneyshire Division. I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other nominations for these positions, please? Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose on the Audit Committee Vice Chair, Councillor Craig Martin, on the basis that traditionally this council has always ensured that we had a chair or a vice chair from the opposition, given the importance of audit and ensuring that it does not become political. Thank you, Chair.
Do we have a seconder?
Yeah, can I second that, please, Chair?
Thank you. Any other nominations for these roles?
Okay, Chair. So we will treat Councillor Wilkes' nomination of Councillor Craig Martin for the Audit Committee Vice Chair position as an amendment. So we will vote on that nomination first. So just give us a moment whilst we load this into the system. And then once it is loaded into the system and you hear the buzzer to announce that the vote is open, if you're voting in favour for the appointment of Craig Martin, it will be 1, against number 2, and 3 to abstain. And obviously, if you press the wrong button, correcting the right button will correct your vote. And if you have a problem with your handset, raise it in the air and the team will come and help. That's the vote open.
We're going to close the vote now. Okay. Regarding the vote, this is for Councillor Martin for Vice Chair of the Audit Committee. We have 427. We have against 53 and 1 abstention. 427 against 53 and 1 abstention. So if we can revert back to the nominations put forward by Councillor Lyons regarding the 3 positions, please.
Chair, we will vote for these nominations en bloc. So you're voting 1 in favour of all 3 nominations, 2 against, or 3 to abstain. And that's the vote open.
And we're closing the vote now. We're closing a vote now. Right, the nominations for the 3 positions as tabled. We have 4, 54, against 22 and 5 abstentions. So the nominations are carried. So it's 4, 54, against 22 with 5 abstentions. The nominations are carried. Thanks very much. We now move on to item 14, which is motions on notice. Can I ask the Director of Legal and Democratic Services to outline the rules of the debate, please?
Thank you, Chair. The usual rules of debate apply. So movers of motions have 5 minutes to speak and seconders and other speakers have 3 minutes. Members may only speak once on a motion other than the mover, who has a 3-minute right of reply. If an amendment is moved and seconded, the debate is on that amendment. Only one amendment may be moved and discussed at any one time. No further amendments may be moved until the amendment under discussion has been disposed of. Each member can speak once on the amendment, except for the mover of the original motion. They have a right of reply before the amendment is put to the vote, but may not otherwise speak on it. If, following the vote, an amendment is carried, it becomes the substantive motion. If the amendment falls, the debate goes back to the original motion. When there is 15 minutes left of the time allowed for motions, the Chair will confirm the number of people registered to speak. No further registrations to speak will be allowed at that point, and we will work through the list of those registered until expiry of the time allowed. Amendments must be relevant to the original motion, and you'll be familiar with those rules, but if there are any issues, we can pick those up as we go. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. So can I now invite Councillor Kyle Genner to move his motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. County Durham has long suffered the effects of post-industrial economic decline. It's a statement I've read many times in books, academic journals and government papers, and it's a statement that leaves me frustrated every time I read it. Why? Well, because it's obvious. Most of us in this room know it to be true, but it's also frustrating because it's rarely followed by meaningful solutions to reverse that decline. Forget books, academic journals and government papers though, because to many in this room and to many of our residents, this is deeper than just abstract words on a page. It's life. It's the dilapidated and deprived estates we grew up on. It's the drugs, the alcohol and the joblessness we were surrounded by. It's the decline in health and the increases in suicide and early death. It's the decline in property values and the crime and antisocial behaviour that often follows. It's the difficulty in attracting new industries and providing well-paying and stable jobs to replace the ones we lost. It's the lack of purpose, meaning, dignity and hope. These are all the consequences of deindustrialisation, and we don't need to look too far or too hard to see that they're still being felt today. Of course, we've seen attempts to alleviate the symptoms of deindustrialisation. Have a new kitchen for your community centre. Have some paint to redecorate the boxing club. Have some free Zumba lessons. Have a food bank or some cheap food that the supermarkets were ready to throw out. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, but it should be obvious to all of us that without successful, broader regeneration, we are just managing decline. Of course, we've seen attempts at broader regeneration too. Who remembers Category D villages, the New Towns Act, the Urban Programme, the Single Regeneration Budget, the New Deal for Communities, Levelling Up? Well, let me take anyone in this room to meet the people I know in Durham's most deprived areas, and we can ask them for ourselves whether their lives and areas have been levelled up. Despite everything, though, the people of Durham are proud, and they should be. Durham and its people were the driving force of the Industrial Revolution, and Durham and its people were therefore the driving force behind the wealth and prosperity enjoyed across the globe today. The problem is that today's people of Durham no longer get their fair share of that wealth and prosperity. It's time to draw a line in the sand. The people of Durham don't want freebies given to placate or appease them, and they don't want another pretentiously named top-down government scheme wiping out local history, culture and identity, forcing some faux gentrification upon them, all without ever fixing the real underlying problem that led to local decline in the first place. So what do the people of Durham want? Well, I've spoken to lots of them all across the county. The people of Durham want us to lay the foundations to bring back an abundance of well-paid, secure and meaningful work. They want opportunity in the places their families come from, the places they were born and the places they grew up. They want to be able to stand on their own 2 feet with dignity and pride. They want the chance to give prospects and prosperity to their children and grandchildren. They want us to help restore meaning and hope to the places they call home. How do we give them those things? Well, the clue is in both our history and in the very first line of this speech. First came the coal mines, then came the transport infrastructure to support them, then came the downstream industries like steel, shipbuilding, engineering and manufacturing. Alongside that came the influx of workers for those coal mines and industries. Then came the housing to shelter those workers, and only then came the community facilities like shops, parks, community centres and workmen's clubs to support them. For far too long, we have been doing regeneration across this country backwards. The towns and villages of Durham were built on industry, and that industry was built using cheap, abundant, reliable energy. Those things were taken away and our industrial communities had their beating heart torn out. We know what made Durham great, and we know what led to Durham's decline. And our history gives us the roadmap to make Durham great all over again. Reindustrialisation, even if in a modern form, built on a foundation of cheap, abundant, reliable energy. Not just in isolated locations, and not just for those who already have the social, cultural and economic capital to take advantage. Reindustrialisation at the centre of our deprived old mining communities, and reindustrialisation that the people who live there can get on board with. The people of Durham have been missing their beating heart. This motion will help us finally put it back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for this motion, please?
Chair, I'll second the motion, but can I reserve my right to speak, please?
Thanks very much. Does any member wish to speak on this? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. I'm bringing amendments, so I think it's going to be showed on the screen. Yes? Thank you. Chair, members, I brought this amended motion as the original motion contains some obvious inaccuracies that must be corrected, and the amended motion serves to highlight economic progress and opportunities that are real and current. I will start by making a simple but essential point. Far from being in decline, County Durham's economy under the previous administration showed marked expansion and growth, and to suggest otherwise is an insult to the people and businesses of our county. Under the joint administration, the county's gross value added rose from 9.8 billion to 12.1 billion, correlating with an increase in the number of jobs by 8,000 full-time equivalents. For the first time, County Durham began to close the gap between us and the rest of the region. That's not decline, that's progress. What is especially significant is how that growth has been achieved, increasingly being driven by industries that are cleaner, smarter and more focused. The county's success is proof that environmental responsibility is not a barrier to prosperity, it is a driver of it. From energy efficiency projects and sustainable construction to low-carbon transport and green manufacturing, we've seen growth that reduces emissions whilst strengthening our economy. Councillor Genna's motion seeks to rip up all of this progress and suggest that the county is at a standing start. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're on a positive trajectory that reform is seeking to destroy. Durham's economic progress and our commitment to environmental sustainability are not in conflict. They are increasingly one and the same. Since 2021, driven by our inclusive economic strategy, we've seen new investment, business growth and job creation, particularly in advanced manufacturing, digital industries and low-carbon sectors. Employment levels have strengthened, new commercial developments have taken root and local supply chains have become more resilient. This progress has not happened by chance. It reflects deliberate choices by the joint administration to back innovation, skills and long-term value, rather than false promises and sound bites. If Councillor Genna was on Dragon's Den, he'd be asked to provide some evidence of the future potential of energy such as coal. Where's the investment coming from? Where is the appetite from our residents for this? What is the timescale? County Durham is well placed to benefit from the UK's transition to net zero. We have the land, the skills base, the industrial heritage and the innovation capacity to play a leading role in renewable energy, energy storage, hydrogen and green supply chains. These are not abstract ambitions. They represent real jobs, real apprenticeships and real investment for our towns and villages. If we get this right, clean energy can deliver long-term economic security for the county, attracting inward investment, retaining young people and ensuring that prosperity is shared rather than concentrated. It also allows us to build on our proud industrial past while shaping a modern, sustainable future. This amended motion recognises that economic success and environmental sustainability must move forward together. It reflects the progress we've already made since 2021 and sets a clear direction of travel for the years ahead, one based on opportunity, responsibility and confidence in County Durham's potential. I urge members to support the amended motion and to continue backing an approach that delivers growth that is not only strong but sustainable for our economy, our environment and our residents. Thank you, Chair, and can I ask for a named vote, please?
10 people, please, to back the name vote. Do we have a seconder for this amendment, please?
Chair, second, and can I reserve my right to speak later, please?
Can. Thanks, Councillor Wilkes. I call on Councillor Lyons, stressing that this is actually on the amendment that you're speaking.
Thank you, Chair. Chris Lyons, Sedgefield Division. I am rising to speak in favour of the amendment. The original motion is terrible and terrifying, falsely framed as something that's positive and even progressive. Much of County Durham's character and culture was created by the hard graft of coal miners, and we're rightly proud of that and should always remember and celebrate it, like the Durham Miners Association does so well. But our future prosperity and health will not be delivered by a return to the extraction of fossil fuels. Anyone with an iota of sense knows that. Only a couple of weeks ago, I was in a scrutiny committee meeting when we were presented with details of the National Clean Power Plan, which is expected to unlock £40 billion of investment every year between now and 2030. And that's just the start. And even if the 40 billion estimate proves to be high, it's clear which way the wind is blowing when it comes to energy. Here in County Durham, the low-carbon economy grew by 10% in 2024 to 2025 alone, much faster than other sectors. And it's already worth £1.7 billion to this county and involves 600 businesses, supporting thousands of jobs. In energy terms, that's where our future economic success lies. The original motion is regressive, Trump-like nonsense. A drill baby drill mantra sends a signal to the rest of the country and the rest of the world that County Durham doesn't want a share of those billions of pounds of investment. It doubles down on the terrible decision to rescind the declaration of a climate emergency and the wrong-headed rhetoric that is regularly regurgitated by members of this council's administration about net zero. We should, of course, continue to pursue the opportunity presented by deep geothermal and put it at the heart of a wider drive for renewable, clean energy that will also fuel, dare I say, supercharge our economy, not damage it, like following the instructions in the original motion surely will. I support this amendment and urge colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lyons. Councillor Pears.
Elizabeth Pears, representing Framwellgate and Newton Hall Division. In bringing this motion that talks down our great county, it is evident that Councillor Genner has taken the example of his party leader, who pretends to be patriotic, then bad-mouths us to our country, to the Americans. I reject the Trump-style MAGA terminology, especially after Trump's insulting comments about the British Armed Forces, considering that there are large numbers of Armed Forces veterans in County Durham. I share the belief that we need to do more to bring investment and new jobs and industries to County Durham, but I don't believe referring to County Durham as being in decline is helpful. We should be recognising the continuing skills and talents of the people of County Durham. There is still a long way to go and many issues, including inequality and the need for more good quality jobs that need to be tackled. We need to be bringing the jobs and industries of the future to Durham. We will not be able to do that by telling everyone we are in decline and making outsiders feel unwelcome. This is an amazing county with the friendliest of people. I support our amendment to emphasise our pride in our county and see the task ahead as continuing the good work done by the previous administration, by businesses and educators to develop modern skills, grow our industry and economy and attract tourism.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor John Kinvig, please.
I wish to speak on the actual motion rather than the amendment to the motion.
All right, thanks very much. Councillor Campbell.
I wish to speak on the original motion, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bell.
Sorry, Chair. I wish to speak on the original motion as well.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Stevenson. GM Stevenson.
I'm also on the original motion as well. Thank you, Chair.
Stephen Boran. Councillor Boran.
You've only got one, Chair. I'm going to speak on the amendment.
Thank you. Just before you start, Councillor, we have... All right, sorry, Councillor.
I'm going to speak against the amendment because some of the facts in the amendment are wrong. At the moment, unemployment is the lowest, the highest it's ever been for 4 years in the North East. Also, in County Durham, since 2023, it has rose from 3.6% to 4.2% in County Durham on unemployment. Where is the decrease? I'm a proud coal miner son who have seen for years and years in County Durham how this has affected County Durham. I am against the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Bring Helen in, please.
Thank you, Chair. So just to confirm, we've got 15 minutes left of the time allowed for motions. We have one person left to speak on the amendment, and then Councillor Wilkes has reserved his right to speak, and Councillor Genner gets a right of reply. And we then have 4 people registered to speak on the original motion, and again, Councillor Grimes has a right to speak, and Councillor Genner would then get a right of reply at that point. So given that we've reached the 15 minutes, we won't take any further registrations.
Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Chair. Can I move a motion without notice to extend the time allowed for motions to 12 o'clock, please?
Can I second that?
Is it agreed? Right. Extended. Can I ask for Councillor Healy, please, if he wishes to speak on the amendment?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sean Healy representing DLS. Oh, wow. Okay, following on from Councillor Jenner's excellent motion, I wish to state that it's not just about bringing jobs back into the county, but it's also looking at the bigger picture. For example, industrial plants up and down the country are closing, mainly due to crippling energy costs because of net zero madness. Take our defence capability, for example. When we allow core chemical companies like Runcorn to disappear, we make the UK dependent on overseas supply chains for materials that underpin both defence, infrastructure and farming. When it becomes cheaper to import than to use our own resources under our feet in County Durham, there is something catastrophically wrong, and it needs to be addressed now, or there's no coming back from this. And let us all remember that supply chains that are feeding our industries can be cut. Our own chains will survive. That's the main problem. And there's been a few comments about Trumpism, if that's even a thing. But what I would say is, for the sake of County Durham, let's not just drill, baby, drill, but let's build, baby, build.
Thank you, Councillor. I call on Councillor John Cook.
Thanks very much. John Cook, Craghead and South Moor Division. Speaking on behalf of the original motion, but I can speak on the other side of it as well, just as easily. I think we're arguing from 2 different positions, and we're having 2 different arguments at the same time. This is a motion about reindustrialisation. Energy is an important factor of that. It underpins, but it's not a means in itself. Energy doesn't create the economy. It creates the stimulus to be able to build the economy. If we don't do that, then we're going to fail. That's a simple and clear examples that we can see in County Durham. We've been following the net zero agenda for a long time now. It has not corresponded with an increase in manufacturing or production or industry in County Durham. I know what the argument is against it. It's leisure and tourism. We should invest in those. But those require wealth to be generated elsewhere and then brought in, or taxed and shuffled back into the economy here. That's not how we build our economy here. We build it by investing in all forms of energy that we can, exploiting that to create the attraction for industry and for manufacturing to come back to County Durham, because jobs in County Durham are essential. That's how we create wealth here. That's how wealth is circulated locally. That's how regeneration occurs. And it is a managed decline if all we're waiting for is the next tax from the City of London to come up here to build our playgrounds, when we could be earning it ourselves here and regenerating our own economy. Otherwise, what we're going to do, if net zero goes on everywhere, we'll become the island that keeps the planet going by taking in each other's washing. That's not how you stimulate growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Coote. Councillor Gray.
Thank you. I want to speak on the original motion but address some of those points as well. Chairs, colleagues, County Durham was not built on slogans and strategies. It was built on industry, energy and the dignity of work. For generations, this county powered Britain. We dug, we engineered, we generated, and in return our communities had purpose, skills and pride. When that industrial base was stripped away, it wasn't replaced with something equal. The result is still visible today in low wages, fragile town centres, left behind communities and young people forced to leave to find better opportunities. Reindustrialisation is not nostalgia, it's realism and it's practical. If we are serious about economic renewal, we must start with energy. Cheap, reliable, locally sourced energy is the foundation of every successful industrial economy, and Durham is uniquely placed to provide it again. Lithium. Lithium matters because it underpins the battery economy. Electric vehicles and grid storage. Britain cannot talk about energy security while importing strategic minerals from overseas while they may exist beneath our very feet. Deep geothermal and mine water heating matter because they offer constant low carbon heat for homes, hospitals and our industries, using assets we already have. Former mining areas can once again become energy producers, not forgotten places. This motion does not say extract at any cost. It says explore, evaluate and decide in the interests of local people. This is responsible leadership. An economy-first approach is not anti-environment. It is pro-community, pro-jobs and pro-future. Durham powered Britain once. With the right ambition, it can help with it again. And this time, keep the benefits here. I urge members to support the original motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elmer. Sorry, Councillor Jonathan Elmer.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Elmer, the Brandon Division. I absolutely support the aspiration to regenerate industry, especially in a distributed way, so that all of our communities feel the benefits. But it's not true to say that our economy is in decline. I also support the aspiration of cheap, abundant and reliable energy to power this growth. But we know the price per kilowatt hour of energy generated from wind is by far the lowest. And also solar. But I'm concerned that this motion appears to be in support of historic approaches that we now know are polluting and unsustainable, especially given that the motion specifically mentions oil, coal and gas. The 2023 analysis of Durham's low-carbon economy showed that the low-carbon economy is growing at 6 times the rate of the mainstream economy in County Durham. The sector's worth £1.7 billion. There's 600 businesses employing 11,000 people. And these are the people you're pushing back against. Don't suppress this vital work simply because your party has an ideological opposition to efforts to stabilise our climate and ecosystems. We need to listen to and be guided by what areas of industry are actually delivering growth, the global scientific consensus on the impact of carbon-based fuels, the need to decouple ourselves from global oil and gas markets so that we can achieve energy independence, and the need to reduce the cost of energy. Recoupling ourselves to global gas markets, as this motion seems to suggest, simply plays into the hands of tyrants like Putin and Trump and drives the cost of energy up and up. I'm deeply concerned also at the rhetoric connected with the natural environment. You've used the phrase protect at all costs approach, implying that nature has historically constrained development. I've been involved with planning in this county for decades. I've checked back, and there's only one example of a planning application that was rejected due to its impact on the natural environment. To imply the reverse is a case of blatant misinformation.
In the light of the National Security Assessment published just last week after a 6-month delay, we now know that the governmental National Security Assessment has placed ecosystem collapse as of huge concern to our country, especially the implications it has on our ability to farm. Members, this motion recommends no concrete change, but it does attempt to give a signal. The signal is that Durham rejects pathways to future prosperity and would prefer to languish in a bygone era. Please support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hope.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I want to speak on, Councillor Kenny Hope, Delves Lane Division. I want to speak in favour of the motion and against the amendment. I work in the oil and gas industry. I work in Norway. Norway has just approved between 24 and 5, 35 new contracts to Equinor to drill on the same oil field that we drill. The UK has only just approved 4 within that same period. That oil from the Ekofisk and Eldfisk field comes into Teesside, where it's then distributed across the world. So I think people need to understand actually how these things work, how fossil fuels are working. Russia provides us with, within the top 5 countries across the nation with oil and gas. That there is fueling the war against the Ukrainians and against the West. I think members on that opposite side there should think really hard about what they're actually saying with facts. Can I ask the guys on that side of the chamber, how many of you have got an e-vehicle, who have got a heat pump, who have got solar power panels on your houses? Can you raise your hands, please, if you've got that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On this side of the chamber, can you raise your hand if you've got any of that? A hell of a lot more, yeah? So just have a little think about what you're actually saying. Okay, we need to look after our residents within this county, and we need to not dwindle on this net zero nonsense. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hope.
The amended motion here, because we think we've lost all sense of where we're at on the process.
Yes, we are talking about the amendments, Councillor Scott, yes. Right. Councillor Harrison, do you wish to speak regarding the amendment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Firstly, I would just like to point out that was a pretty cheap shot, using veterans and Donald Trump to try to go off-peak. I would implore that side of the House not to use veterans and weaponise them again. Yeah, I used the word House, sorry, my apologies. The Chamber. With that in mind, we'll want to look at current policy in the UK. I'm not going off-piece, this is to do with my comment, and what the government is actually doing today to veterans this week by supporting prosecutions. Moving on.
Sorry, Councillor, stick with the amendment. Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
So, members this side of the House have told us the growth that's happening in Durham. East Durham's not growing. East Durham is full of cheap housing, unscrupulous businesses and landlords exploiting the community. Decline is no hope. There's no hope. What we need to do, and we have a duty, is to give industrialisation a chance and to work alongside the green sector, which is happening now in Seaham area, with Morvern being the biggest project the government have ever launched down the east coast. With that in mind, we have wind farms, we have solar farms. This is not enough. We need to explore industrialisation and work alongside these projects. We have the duty to do that. Landlords and companies exploiting East Durham is not growth. I support the motion and ask everyone in this room to support the motion and give people hope. I would also ask that we vote against the amendment, because what you're doing is actually reducing hope in the area. You're actually asking us not to explore other things like industrialisation.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Husband.
Thank you, Chair. I think anybody who thinks life's getting easier in County Durham, I mean, that's just for the birds. Life is getting harder. Jobs are scarce. You know, businesses are closing. You have NSK just before Christmas. You've got, Revolution bars in the press today. It's just never ending. And, you know, people are giving up hope. That's why we got elected. The direction of travel is not what people want. People are sick of being lied to. I mean, I'm going to give you some examples of this wonderful economy that we've inherited. And this is from, this is based on economic reviews from the labour market data and employment data in County Durham since 2021. 2,500 manufacturing jobs lost. Retail jobs in decline, 2,000 jobs. Council reductions. In the process of reducing its workforce, we've seen a reduction in the county council workforce over this period, 3,000 posts. I'm going to get straight to the point. Extraction, you mentioned. So it's not okay to extract the lithium from Weardale Lithium, but it's okay for the kids in the Congo to sort of quench your thirst for your batteries, etc. I mean, ideology, we've already proved that we're more environmentally friendly than you are, which is absolutely, again, a ridiculous point to make. And my experience as leader is the previous administration were actually very difficult to work with, too much red tape. Developers were just giving up. But yeah, you're right, Durham is now open for business, very much so, because it was closed for business under the previous administration. And we do believe in a mixed energy infrastructure, but I think what this whole point of what I'm going to try to make now is this actual original motion is about mapping out the future for County Durham. It's looking at where the opportunity is. It's telling the North Sea oil and gas producers that, you know, don't give up just yet. There's an opportunity for this council when we get a proper government in charge. So I think, if anything, we're preparing County Durham for a reform government in 2029 so we can hit the ground running. Simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Scott Woodhouse. Stress that this is on the amendment.
Yeah, it is on amendment. Councillor Scott Woodhouse, Castle Eden, Passfield. Not long ago, we all agreed unanimously to support our farmers on a motion. But all I heard from that other side today was, we have the land, we have solar, we have wind. So are we supporting our farmers? Are we building our food economy? Or are we going to try and destroy another industry? Because that's all I heard from you over there is, let's go net zero, let's destroy an industry. Because that's what you're doing with farming, not supporting what you promised in that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Walton.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to speak against the motion. The original motion talks about a pragmatic approach to environment. In other words, pragmatically evaluated. What we're seeing actually in the environmentalism that we see in County Durham is not pragmatic, but dogmatic. If you think it makes sense for China to burn coal, to build solar panels, to sell them to the UK, who then install them on perfectly viable farmland, you're definitely not being pragmatic. This is insane. And we all know that we are paying with our pockets for this insanity through the surcharge on our energy bills. This motion does not offer practical solutions. It does offer a dream of things being better than they are now. And all meaningful change starts with dreaming. If I may quote George Bernard Shaw, saying to some of his friends once, he said, "You see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things as they might be and ask why not."
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hopgood.
Thank you, Chair. I'm rising to just speak against something that Councillor Bowen said and correct him. Councillor Scott did never mention unemployment within her words. She mentioned the 8,000 extra jobs. And I'm assuming that nobody on the other side has read the amendment that's come through. Can we have paragraph 5 up on the screen, please? Because it quite clearly says in there, about lithium and geothermal energy from former mines. So I'm not quite sure where they've picked up that that's been deleted from the original motion. So just to be clear, what's in there now and what we are supporting and what we are asking. And we're sat on the very site for people who don't want to do business with County Durham for the joint venture that we signed before the current administration came in. For all the jobs that have been created, I'm not disputing that jobs have lost along the line, and there's no one knows more so than the leader of this council how hard it is to maintain the leisure industry when he talks about revolution. So in terms of what we're talking about, can you please read the amendment rather than think what you think it says?
Thank you, Councillor. We have nobody else registered to speak on the amendment. Councillor Wilkes has reserved the right to speak, if you would like. Would you like to speak now?
Yes, please. Thank
Sorry,
you.
sorry, just a moment.
Sorry.
But I'd also invite that Councillor Genner has also a right to reply if he so wishes. So, Councillor Wilkes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Husband says that life is getting harder. Don't dispute that. You could do with a better government, let's be fair. But his administration aren't helping by slashing services and cutting capital investment and spouting negative rhetoric. And just to repeat, the amendment still includes lithium, Councillor Husband. Councillor Genner refers to the issues in our county about attracting new industries. But it's his cabinet which scrapped the expansion of South Church and Jade business parks, which were going to provide jobs, including bringing in new green jobs. And Councillor Harrison, that's Jade is in the east of the county. Slashing council investment, as this reform cabinet have done, and sending a message that we're not open for business with new industry is exactly what you've been doing. You can't be trusted with our economy. Reindustrialisation is not about sending our kids down the pit or ripping our environment apart again with open cast coal mining, which seems to be what you want. That's financially and morally unacceptable. It'll damage people's health, it'll damage the landscapes of our beautiful county, and it'll damage our standing in the world. It's nothing short of madness. Reindustrialisation is about future technology, which this amendment supports. Councillor Boron says he's a proud coal miner's son. Everyone I speak to are from mining communities don't want coal mining back. Councillor Healy mentions the bigger picture and net zero. Renewable energy is now cheaper than fossil fuels, and I don't think that the residents of Bear Park want their pit reopening. Councillor Cook mentions reindustrialisation and building the economy. Net zero jobs have been growing in their thousands in our county. New industries are coming here and can see, or they were coming here, and you can see that at Net Park as well, where the last administration made huge strides. But this cabinet is cutting capital investment like that. Councillor Hope refers to Norway, where over 80% of cars, probably getting on to 90%, are now electric. Councillor Hope refers to solar, but then goes to planning meeting and talks nonsense about solar shields in space. Councillor Woodhouse mentions farmers. Well, we saw what the Tories did to farmers, and their party's now full of them. Councillor Walton says their motion doesn't offer anything practical. I quite agree on that. And Councillor Graham talks about lithium, which remains in the amended motion, as does mine water heating. Councillor Graham also talks about slogans. The slogans that disgust me, Chair, are those that this administration make out, tied to Trumpian MAGA slogans in the past. But I guess that's what to expect from a new right-wing Tory 2.0 party.
Right. Thank you. We have 15 minutes left. I call on Councillor Geller again if you wish to give a reply, and we will go then to the vote regarding the amendment.
Chair, just to clarify,
Depending on the outcome of that, we will then bring in those who wanted to speak on the original motion until 12 midday.
Sorry, Chair, just to clarify, if I give a reply now, do I still get a right to reply on the original motion? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You do.
Yes, so firstly, I'd like to thank the many members on the opposite side of the chamber for the veiled insults. It was a bit like a trip to my mother-in-law's for Sunday lunch, only the insults over there are much more cutting. Yeah, Councillor Hopgood made the point about reading the amended motion, but I would contend that members on the opposite side didn't read the original motion. There was nothing in there about not using green energy sources. In fact, it makes clear that this is about being pragmatic, and it makes clear that we would look at other options too. In fact, I'll just read you a couple of bits from the original motion. It's time we move away from a protect at all costs approach and toward an approach of let's explore the options and weigh up the pros and cons. Pragmatism, as opposed to dogma. In point 5 of the motion, it says whether it's lithium, deep geothermal, mine water, oil, gas, coal, or something else. That's not exclusionary. I haven't said no to solar or to wind or to anything. I've said let's weigh up the options and let's look at the pros and cons. The one point I will add at the end is that I'm clearly not Donald Trump. I'm poor. I've got no money in the bank. That guy's loaded. But I do like the idea of drill, baby, drill. I do like the idea of jobs, baby, jobs. I do like the idea of economy, baby, economy. I do like the idea of a county, a local area, a country that my kids can grow up in and know that there's going to be wealth and prosperity. The original motion brings that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gemmer. Right, we're going to go to the vote regarding the amendment. Councillor Hope.
Quinn, Chair.
I think you look better than Councillor Hope.
No offence, Councillor Hope. Chair, again, I'd like to move a motion without notice to extend the time allowed for motions by another 30 minutes, please, from 12. That'll take us till half 12.
It will take you to 12:30, but that's the maximum time allowed for the meeting. So if you want to take it to 12:30, you will need to extend the time allowed for the overall time of the meeting to enable us to get through questions from members.
Can I also move a motion without notice to extend the time in the meeting to, say, 12:45? Please. 1 o'clock, Chair. Just trying to give for your questions.
So you want to move a motion without notice to extend the time of the meeting to 1 o'clock?
Yes, and then...
Well, let's deal with them. Let's deal with one motion at a time. So, is that seconded?
I'll second that, Chair, but could I ask for a comfort break at some point?
Is that extension agreed?
I don't think it's as clear-cut as that, so can we go to a vote whether we extend it that far? So, is that okay? So can we have a vote? Who's would vote to extend it to 1 p.m?
Objecting to it, but we are objecting to a comfort break. So can we, if anyone needs to leave the chamber, then they can, but by extending it and having an extra 10 or 15 minutes in the middle is time we're losing.
Fair point, okay.
We're happy with that, Chair.
So then we are agreed, we're extending this till 1 p.m. and there is no comfort break, but people can leave if they so wish to go to the toilet. Okay?
Before anyone leaves the chamber, can we deal with the second motion without notice? So, to extend the time for motions on notice until 12:45?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
12:45, yes, because then that gives 15 minutes for questions.
Is that seconded?
I'll second that, Chair.
Is that agreed? Excellent.
Yes, so we are going back to the vote on the amendment. Councillor Scott made a successful request for it to be a named vote on the amendment. So the way in which people vote on the amendment will appear in the minutes when they are produced. Again, the buzzer will sound to indicate that voting is open. It's 1 in favour of the amendment, 2 against and 3 to abstain.
Yeah, the vote's closed now. Thank you. Regarding the amendment, we have 425 against 52, abstentions 2. The amendment falls, and we go back to the original motion, and we then go back to Councillor Kinvig, who was registered to speak regarding the original motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor John Kinvig, representing Bishop Auckland Squad, Bishop Auckland Division. It's my first time speaking in the Chamber, so please, if the Chair be courteous and give me some leniency on this occasion. First of all, I will endorse the original motion, and the reasons behind it is I work in the chemical industry and have done for almost 30 years. Councillor Hope is at the dirty end of what I design. I'm at the clean end of it. And we design chemical plants, and in the oil and gas industry, and now the affordable fuels industry, and we always use ALARP, as low as reasonably practicable, on all risks, including for safety, for life, and the environment. So we ensure that the environment is protected in accordance with the current law, and as people in this chamber ensure that those laws are adhered to. That's the first point. The next point I'd like to mention is a small village in North Wales called Trawsfynydd, a village I know very well. It's where there's a nuclear power station, the only inland nuclear power station in the United Kingdom. And it was built in the 1960s, operated until early 1990. But in the 1950s, they had a public consultation regarding this. And the local councillor went down to the village to discuss the construction of this nuclear power station. And he took with him not only his wife, but also a bed sheet. And on that bed sheet, he wrote some words, and he used it as a banner in the public consultation. And he wrote on there, with a slight accent, "Bread, not beauty." And 70 years later, we're in the same place again. In fact, I don't think we've ever moved from that place. We've always needed bread. And that request by that councillor, the then councillor, passed the consultation process, and that power station was constructed. That brought in 600 new jobs for that power station, thousands of jobs in that area. The schools were full because of all the pupils. There's not a lot to do in North Wales. All the schools were full, and everything prospered for everybody in the area. It's been closed now for 30 years.
1 minute.
Back down to what it is, or what it was before. Just hill farms and some logging, and Blanfystiniog railways and slate mines. So the prosperity of that power station coming into the Snowdonia National Park meant that the whole community prospered. So to finalise, first of all, industry will always ensure that the environment is protected. So I'm confident, as seen I'm the guy who designed some of these plants, that will be adhered to. The other one is take away bread, not beauty. We need to think about this. We need bread. Okay. And the last point I want to make is I'm endorsing this motion, and I ask members on this side of the chamber to endorse this motion for our families, for our communities, and for our county. And I ask the members opposite, if they also value their voters, they should also vote for this motion as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Gillian Campbell for Lower Teesdale. Whilst I welcome this motion setting out a more flexible and creative economy-first approach to unlocking the economic potential of this county, I have 2 points to make. This government's restrictive planning legislation and policies designed to control and speed up measures to meet its net zero target means the council is severely constrained as to its choices. Second, reindustrialisation mustn't be at the cost of one of Durham's most precious resources, the landscape itself. In an ideal world, we should be able to explore all options to utilise our homegrown resources, looking at newer ideas, but also learning from the past. We should not restrict ourselves only to options that would be deemed to achieve the net zero target, regardless of the consequences. Net zero has been an act of national economic sabotage, doubling industrial electricity prices over the last few years, and which will probably lead to industrial collapse. The farce and tragedy is that even if we meet the domestic net zero target, it would make no difference whatsoever to the global rise in emissions. What is actually happening is that the noble aim of protecting the environment is subservient to a rigid political ideology. Two examples of where this approach is destroying our county's treasured landscape areas. To the south of the county, the proposed Hope Moor wind farm, which, if approved, will be sited on the Teesdale and North Yorkshire moorland close to the Yorkshire Dales National Park and North Pennines National Landscape. This huge onshore development of up to 20 200-metre high turbines will threaten the habitats of protected species, disturb the delicate upland ecosystem and dominate important views. And even worse, this application is to be decided by Ed Miliband. And to the east of the county, we all know there is loss of farmland to enormous solar farms.
1 minute.
These undermine national food security and gravely damage our farming and rural communities. To put it bluntly, the landscape and our economy are being sacrificed to net zero. Therefore, I believe there must be a better way, and it is time for a new pragmatism for the benefit of Durham's landscape, communities and economy. An approach unfettered by ideology will enable us to consider the cost and benefits of not just renewables, but all our natural energy sources. And I therefore urge everyone to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Chair. As often happens, Councillor Campbell has said much of what I was going to say, but I'll say it anyway, having waited for so long. The line I particularly like in Councillor Genna's motion is in paragraph 5. Cheap and abundant energy is foundational to a thriving economy. Let me repeat that. Cheap and abundant energy is foundational to a thriving economy. First politician I've said that actually gets that. Yet we have among the most expensive electricity in the world. I am tired of people telling me that renewable energy is cheap. It is not cheap. Have you ever wondered when your energy provider tells you most of our energy is generated from renewables, yet your electricity bill goes up year after year after year? I've been wondering that for years, so I looked into it. Why is that? Because the government dishes out contracts to renewable energy companies for big solar, big wind farms and says, we will pay you the megawatt rate for that most expensive fuel in the basket, currently gas. If it wasn't gas, it would default to nuclear, which means essentially that building these huge wind farms and solar farms are a license to print money. This policy has spawned a modern-day gold rush to despoil our landscape with mega solar farms and mega wind farms. And Councillor Campbell has said about the one in Hope Moor, to put it into context, the wind turbines there are twice as big as anything we have in County Durham. Next time you drive along to Towlaw, think of that times 2. This is in an area where it currently has signage saying, please keep your dogs on a lead, because it'll disturb nesting birds, etc. It'll require access tracks near roads. What's the developer's answer to that? They throw money at it. They'll say, we'll give you the local community several £100,000 a year to do with it as well. Throw money at it. We'll throw money at wildlife studies. We'll throw money at ecology. We'll throw money at anything. How can they afford to throw money at everything? Because they are getting paid
1 minute, Councillor.
hand over fist by this government's mad energy policy to produce renewable energy like that. What's the consequence of it? Deindustrialisation? I'll tell you. I often drive down Weardale to come to County Hall. Over the years, I've seen Eastgate Cement Works close, Wolsingham Foundry close, the foundry at Towlaw closed, the one that produced cannonballs for the Crimean War, in large part because of humongous energy costs. We have exported all of our energy-intensive industries to China, be it cement making, be it pottery, be it chemicals, be it steel, be it everything. And it's just so that people like Ed Miliband can say, aren't we wonderful, we're heading for net zero. Well, in fact, China then makes everything largely powered by coal fire, which it then ships to this country, emitting more CO2 because of the oil and diesel burnt on ships. This government's energy policy is mad, and for that reason alone, though I don't agree with every last word in your motion, Councillor Gedda, you wouldn't expect me to, it's a lengthy motion, for that reason alone, I'm going to be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor James Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. Tough act to follow that. For generations, this county powered Britain, from coal and steel to engineering and manufacturing. County Durham didn't just take part in the Industrial Revolution, we led it. Our towns were built on skill, hard work and pride in making things that mattered. Take Shildon in my ward, for example, once a powerhouse of the railway industry. Established in the 1820s as part of the Stockton-Darlington Railway, the works grew into one of the world's largest wagon building and repair centres, earning it the title the cradle of the railways. Today, Shildon is still living with the consequences of industrial decline. The loss of the rail works stripped away thousands of skilled jobs and economic stability that once defined the town. Pockets of deprivation remain, opportunities are limited, and too little investment has reached the community. For many residents, especially young people, the lack of prospects can feel like Shildon has been left behind. Meaningful regeneration here is not just desirable, it's essential. Let me be clear, reindustrialising County Durham isn't about nostalgia, it's about the future. When we invest in local industry, we don't just create factory jobs. We create apprenticeships, we create engineering roles, we create supply chains for small businesses. We create demand for local shops, builders, drivers and service workers. One industrial job does not stand alone, it supports many others across the local economy. Reindustrialisation is about opportunity for young people. Too many people feel they must leave County Durham to build a career. That is not a failure of ambition, it's a failure of policy. By rebuilding industry here, we give young people a reason to stay. We give them access to skilled work, paid training, and long-term careers that don't rely on zero-hour contracts and insecure employment. This is how we rebuild pride, stability, and opportunity across generations and across communities. And let me say this clearly, I believe in County Durham. I believe that County Durham still matters. I believe that our people have the skills and talent to compete with anyone. And I believe that investment should come to our communities and not pass us by. If we choose to invest, to plan and to lead, then County Durham can once again be a place where things are made and people are trained, and where good jobs are part of everyday life. Reindustrialising County Durham is not just an economic strategy, it is a statement of confidence in our people and in our future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gray, do you want to speak?
I've already spoken, thank you.
I'll take your word for that. Councillor Martin.
Chair, Councillor Martin of North Lodge and Chesley Street. Chair, I just want to quote what the National Policy Planning Framework states on some of these matters. I'm going to refer to paragraph 224. When determining planning applications, great weight should be given to the benefits of mineral extraction, including to the economy. So, in planning law, there is already a presumption in favour of development. That terminology, great weight, means it is extremely difficult to prevent mineral extraction, mining, etc., more so than your usual planning applications such as extensions, housing estates, 3D football pitches. They all have this kind of baked-in presumption of favour. So I fully support this wording of great weight. We need such industries, we need those minerals for all the things we do. So I ask the question, why put forward such a motion and add some of these things when planning law does what you want already? The answer, I fear, is to remove those limited barriers that already exist. So Liberal Democrats are not going to support a motion that communities across County Durham will actually come to fear. Something that will mean less screening from the disruption of those industries, less demand on companies to keep sites clean, and more disruption for those that live next to those sites. I'm hearing the Reform Party talk up the need to protect rural communities, protect farmland, preserve local food production, from the harm of solar farms, from the harm of wind farms. But this is hypocrisy when you're advocating to dig up bigger holes, more holes in our beautiful County Durham countryside, in our rural areas, so that private mining companies can hoover up big profits. So, Chair, there is nothing pragmatic about reducing those already limited environmental protections. This motion is irrational to those we represent. Vote against it, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Boron, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Boren, Chiltern Wilson Division. That's all, not enough, mate. I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Wilt said earlier about taking kids down the pit. That doesn't happen anymore, and I think he needs to retract that statement. Also, it's 60 years today that Chiltern itself closed the pit, and it's the anniversary of that. All I can say about this motion, especially, I've worked closely with Cabinet. I can see what future we are doing with the economy in County Durham, and I'm proud of what steps we're making, and I fully support this motion as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Malloy.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Pete Malloy, Spennymoor Division. I think it's very important that we do have to pursue all avenues of providing energy resources specifically to help to reduce costs, because it is a very expensive bill that we all have to pay, whether that's domestically or for business as well. Yeah, it's a nice idea to have all clean energy, renewable energy, but we've got to be realistic. The size of Britain is a very small country, combined with the country's population of around 68 million. We can't produce enough renewable, cheap energy to cater for a country of our size, not just in land mass, but also in population, in my opinion. Also, what we got as well, with regards to the country's landmass and providing enough energy, renewable energy resources, this country suffers with being an island of coastal erosion, and we're getting smaller. And some people on the environmentalist side of it may say, well, there's proof, climate change, man-made. But I'll disagree with that, because if we go back to about 12,000 years ago, the last ice age, that was a massive climate change in our planet's history. And it wasn't the only one. There's been at least 5 through the Earth's history. But going back to the last one, 12,000 years ago, there was no coal-powered power stations there. There was no diesel cars then. It was nature.
1 minute, Councillor.
So therefore, to pursue all forms of energy to keep it cheap for the people, I'm going to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wilkes, do you wish to speak?
Thanks, Chair. A bit quicker than I expected. I've lost my track here. Councillor Hope asked who had renewable energy, clean cars, that kind of stuff. He seemed keen for us to all have it, but begs the question why he and his colleagues don't want to invest it in this county, as we've seen from the cuts to capital. Councillor Kinvig said, bread not beauty. Why do members of his party not want new industry and renewables? It's odd. Councillor Campbell says reindustrialisation should not damage our environment. The motion talks about heavy industry and coal mining. I'm not sure how digging up coal won't damage the environment. If there was coal under Gainford, I'm not sure her residents would be delighted about having on-cap mining in their village. Councillor Bell talks about minimum payments for energy firms. That's the guarantee regardless of what types of energy, even for gas. What we need is to decouple from the international fossil fuel energy markets and fix our national grid. That's what brings down costs. When you're joining Tory 2.0, Richard, Councillor Stevenson, I repeat what I said earlier, it's your cabinet scrapping investment, including near Shildon at Southchurch. I think the members opposite aren't communicating with their cabinet colleagues. And Councillor Boron, I'm not going to retract that statement. People's kids don't stop being their kids when they reach 18. It's staggering that he's still happy for people's kids to go down the pit in this day and age.
Councillor Hope.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hope, Dowsley and Division. I just want to point out to Councillor Wilkes over there, none of us are not advocating for renewable energy. We want to work alongside renewable energy and work alongside our fossil fuel industries. We can't just switch one off and turn the other one on without a significant event on us. That is hitting us in the pockets. It's the deprivation across the county is rising. Across the country it's rising. Now, Councillor Wilkes again, something in space that you're supposed to have quoted. I'll just remind him what I said. The government were looking to invest in potential cloud seeding to stop the sun coming through to prevent global warming. And on that issue, what I said is if we are going to be putting money into bringing solar farms within the country, desecrating our landscapes, why on earth would we want to block out the sun? That's exactly what I said. So Councillor Wilkes, the guy who is complaining about grass cutting within the county from 12 weeks to 10 weeks, think about the CO2 that's producing through the gas-guzzling lawnmowers that are cutting that grass. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Husband.
Chair, I think this debate has kind of been debated to death now. I think the opposition have clearly weren't around in July when we declared undeclared a climate emergency. This ship has sailed. So for me, can we go straight to those who've actually reserved the right to speak so we can quickly move this to a vote?
Yeah, thank you.
Is that motion to put the question to a vote seconded?
Yes, I second it.
I think we're all of a mind that it has been debated to death, and I would like to take it to a vote. And I wish I could have a comfort break, but I'm not going to have one, so we'll carry on. Do you agree to put it to a vote? Thank you. Councillor Grimes, you did reserve your right to speak, and you've been very patient.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Lib Dems, if you looked at the amendment that was just put forward and proposed there, it was sponsored by their favourite fuel. Now, you might well be wondering, is that wind? Is that solar? No, my friends, it's wishful thinking. That's exactly what everything that they stand for when it comes to energy is based on. You know, we hear about economic growth and the way in which net zero is creating a green revolution for new technologies to create the jobs of the future. My mum met my dad in a factory on Tanfield Industrial Estate. That factory is long since gone. Now, there are many people on the other side of the chamber who would quite like for that factory to have never existed, and therefore Darren Grimes to never have existed. But that's irrelevant, my friends. I want people to be able to access jobs and opportunities through cheap and plentiful energy. That is something we cannot do right now when we have a restricted energy mix through wind and solar, unreliable renewables. The truth is, the Lib Dems in 2010 rejected nuclear energy. By now, had the Lib Dem government actually allowed nuclear energy to come into fruition, we would be enjoying the spoils of that energy right now. They are the ones that don't know they're behind from their panels. I'm afraid it is the facts. The facts are against them. The amendment that was actually put forward, I think Councillor Genna has done us a real service in putting forward this motion, because ultimately, under successive governments, I fear now, and I look back, my grandfather was a miner. Actually, no one goes down the pits anymore. Open cast technology, has moved it on from the days of my grandfather. But ultimately, under successive governments, the only main import that this county has been able to enjoy is HMOs and paving over with solar panels and wind farms. I I look out of my window at North Durham and I see beauty, right? I see beauty. And I think of the people that came before me, and I think that we do them a great disservice if we don't continue to exploit the very many energy opportunities and economic opportunities that we'll have if we shake off the noose of net zero. So, Councillor Genna, well done you. Let's get that damn thing passed, shall we?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Genna, you do have a right to reply if you so wish.
No, I've got nothing to add. Thanks, Chair.
So we will go to a vote, please, regarding the original motion.
Chair, can we have a name vote, please?
There's a request for a name vote. Is there enough sufficient people? I think that's sufficient. Thank you.
That's sufficient, Chair. So how people vote will appear in the minutes for the meeting. That's the vote open. So it's 1 in favour of the original motion, 2 against, 3 to abstain. If you press the wrong button, pressing the right one corrects your vote. And again, if you've got a problem with your handsets, wave them in the air and someone will come and help you. Thank you.
We're closing the vote now. Thank you. How we do? Regarding the original motion, we have 452 against 15, 6 abstentions. So the motion is carried. The motion is carried. Thank you. We move on to the second motion. Can I invite Councillor Hope to move his motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kenny Hope, Dowsley Division. Members will recall last year that I amended a motion, a very weak motion, on the urgent care treatment centre at Shotley Bridge Hospital. I haven't had a response from that yet, and I would like to have a response. And before I actually get into it, I would ask members just to please stop putting it in your leaflets, delivering them through doors that you are sorting out the Shotley Bridge Hospital, because you cannot sort out the Shotley Bridge Hospital. It is government and NHS led, okay? Residents are coming up to me and asking me questions during surgeries as what you are doing for the hospital. My response is, I can't do anything apart from, ask the people in power, the CEO, our leader of the council, at County Durham, from the County Durham Council, to be able to ask them questions to central government and the NHS. So the council notes that the extension of the overnight closure of the UTC at Shotley Bridge Hospital to the beginning of March 2026 results in a sustained reduction in the access to urgent health care for a defined local population. The absence of the published time-bound recovery plan for workforce recruitment and service restoration raises serious concerns regarding the service continuity and patient access. The continued failure to release approved capital funding for the new Shotley Bridge Hospital has materially delayed the infrastructure necessary to meet the current and future healthcare demand. This was promised 8 years ago and it's still not off the ground. They've cut the ground, but the money hasn't been released from central government. The Council considers that the prolonged withdrawal of overnight urgent care without clear mitigation or restoration plans risk breaching the statutory duty under the National Health Service Act 2006. To provide comprehensive and accessible health services, repeated extensions of temporary service closures without formal consultation or defined end points risk being unlawful in practice and by default. The failure to meaningfully engage affected communities undermines transparency, accountability and public confidence within the NHS decision-making. The Council therefore resolves to formally place on record its view that the continued failure to restore the UTC, overnight UTC provisions and progress the new hospital bills risks placing both on central government and NHS bodies in breach of their statutory obligations. We call upon the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care and the NHS leadership to restore overnight UTC provisions at Shotley Bridge without further delay. Publish a clear time-bound plan for workforce recruitment and service stabilisation. Release capital funding immediately to commence the construction of the new Shotley Bridge Hospital. Require the NHS to convene a public in-person meeting with residents of Consett, Stanley and surrounding communities, attended by senior decision makers to explain the service withdrawals, delays and future provision. Instruct the Chief Executive and the leader of Durham County Council to write to the Secretary of State, the NHS Integrated Care Board and relevant NHS Trust, setting out this Council's concerns and reserving the right to pursue further scrutiny should satisfactory action not be taken. Just a point to note, a neighbour of mine had a heart attack last year. This was when the UTC was closed,
1 minute, Councillor.
Temporarily. And, you know, this heart attack, it took him 40-odd minutes for the ambulance to get to him. Now, if the hospital was open, the UTC was open, this guy could have been seen immediately. And thankfully, he did survive. However, it could have been massively different. Therefore, Councillor Grindle for Benfield's side has offered to put a defibrillator within her ward that will cover that area. This is the stuff that councillors are having to do to try and, you know, club that gap between the failing system of the NHS and us residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for the motion, please?
Councillor Walton, Stanley Division. I'd like to second the motion, Chair, and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any member of the Chamber wish to speak on this motion? Councillor Craig Martin.
Chair, Councillor Martin of North Lodge and Chesley Street. Councillor Hope, I've got one of those leaflets just for you right now. I know how much the Reform Party love to wave around a good focus leaflet, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to do it myself today. And this one's a bit vintage. It's all the way back from 2020, delivered to Moorside from Councillor Haney. Liberal Democrats across Consett, across all of County Durham, have been fighting to improve the facilities at Shotley Bridge for years and years and years. And that's why we're really happy to support this motion that's been put forward today. And just to counteract, these leaflets we feel are really important because they ensure that this issue is on the agenda in the community and isn't forgotten about. I'm proud to speak today in Councillor Haney's absence, who today is on the front line of the NHS, actively delivering care. Someone who cares so much, he also dedicates his work life to being a mental health practitioner and couldn't make it today. I personally am really concerned about the knock-on effects of not having a fully functioning Shotley Bridge Hospital will have on the North Durham University Hospital. Almost everybody I encounter has direct experience or knows of a close family member that has a 6, a 7, even a beyond 8-hour wait to get seen at our local accident and emergency. Now, the NHS says that these overnight closures will have a very marginal effect, but it is already bursting at the seams. Any additional increase in pressure cannot be allowed to happen when the conditions are so poor to begin with. In a developed modern country, should the elderly, ill, vulnerable be waiting this long for urgent medical treatment? Of course not. Unacceptable timeframes, Unacceptable this overnight closure will make it worse. Unacceptable the government isn't doing more to sort this out. Chair, these council meetings are quite often like some of my previous relationships. They're never-ending, lifeless and uncomfortable. But I am content to sit here in the knowledge that it will be less time and with less suffering that so many of our residents experience when visiting our local accident and emergency. I encourage all members to back this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd just like to stress that I'm the one that catches the jokes. You're not allowed to do anything with jokes, okay? Councillor Rooney.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Catherine Rooney, Consett North Division. I'm sure you'll be aware, Councillor Hope, we've worked cross-party for many years campaigning...
Councillor Martin, you've got your microphone still on, please.
I'll start again. Councillor Catherine Rooney, Consett North Division. I'm sure you'll be aware, Councillor Hope, we have worked cross-party for many years campaigning for a fit-for-purpose hospital. It's good to have reform on board and echoing the views of councillors past and present. Thank you, Chair.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this matter? Councillor Healy.
Councillor Sean Healy, DNS. I would like to obviously join this support for the motion. It is absolutely paramount that we have a good emergency treatment system on the NHS, and we absolutely need the security that will give people at their time of greatest need. I myself last August discovered that two things were true. One, my bones are more fragile than I thought, and the NHS is more stretched than we imagine. And anything that supports the NHS, its staff and its emergency provision is absolutely fundamental, and I'm glad there's obviously cross-chamber support for this. And I acknowledge the fact that members of the opposition are as passionate about this as we are. This isn't a political point, but it is a moral point. Let's vote in support of this motion.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. So we'd extended the time for motions until 12:45, so it's now 12:30, so we have 15 minutes left. We have two members wishing to speak, and Councillor Walton has reserved his right to speak, and then Councillor Hope has his right of reply. So hopefully we will get through that within the 15 minutes left remaining.
Councillor Wilkes.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Hope, we agree on something. Excellent. I had to attend the UTC a few weeks ago, so I've now personally seen just how good that facility is, and also the impact for somebody travelling over a long distance to get for care, even if in my case it wasn't as serious as for people that you've mentioned. It just shouldn't be like that. And it's one of the reasons why I also want to see the government giving us the money to get the A&E and Durham built that was promised. And so I fully support this motion to get all our health services up to scratch. Councillor Martin, I'm not sure if it was you or your ex's views you were referring to.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jonathan Elmer.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Elmer, Brandon Division. I'd also like to thank Councillor Hope for bringing this motion. I think it's a really important motion. I've had very recent experience myself of attending A&E at Dryburn at University Hospital North Durham, having lost a fight with a hedge trimmer. And the wait, and it wasn't a particularly busy time, was 8 hours. And it was a packed waiting room filled with people who were in a lot more serious condition than I was in. So just wanted to say absolutely support the motion, and thanks for tabling it, adding to the pressure we need to be giving here.
Thank you, Councillor. There is nobody else registered to speak, so I would call on Councillor Walton, who's reserved his right to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I grew up in the house, the first house outside Shotley Bridge Hospital. Whoever's in charge of the blue plaques, by the way, make a note of that when I pass on. That's where it needs to go. I was grateful as a young man for the times when I had unfortunate encounters with steel railings on my bike and with the ground falling out of trees and things like that young men do. for the existence of the A&E department at Shotley Bridge. More recently, I was enormously grateful when I managed to, we all sound a bit accident prone here, don't we? I had an accident, I fell down a hillside when I was out walking, and I got a deep wound in my left leg, which became infected. I was able to go into the walk-in centre in Shotley Bridge Hospital on a Sunday afternoon and get treatment within a few minutes. And I think that was quite important because it turned out to be quite a bad infection. I've still got the leg, so thank you very much, Shotley Bridge Hospital. I recently had to take my wife twice to Dryburn University Hospital for outpatient appointments. On both occasions, the car park was full, as indicated by the illuminated sign on entry. On the second occasion, there must have been 15 cars driving round and round looking for spaces. And I know this has been mentioned in the press, it's been mentioned in social media, that this is a serious problem. We've mentioned the waiting times. The car parking problem is another part of the issue. That's what we're stuck with if we close the facility at Shotley Bridge. I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hope, if you want to say anything extra.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank the guys on the opposition for your kind words. And again, you know, this should be a cross-party issue. It is a cross-party issue, and I would invite you all to come along and discuss with all of us club together to kick those doors down in Westminster to get something done. Something actually needs to be done because us within County Durham, especially Consett, Stanley and the surrounding areas, are being neglected by the NHS, by the government in statutory healthcare that we need. We don't want anybody unnecessarily to get any worse than they actually are or potentially die. So I welcome your kind words and thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. We can go to a vote, but I sense that everybody is in agreement regarding this motion. Is there any need to go to a vote, or do you accept it, what the motion is? Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Item 15, questions from members. We received 2 questions for the meeting, and the first one is from Councillor Hopgood, and then the second one is from Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. Could the Leader of the Council confirm when Cabinet approved the request for a corporate peer challenge and what data, evidence and reports were they assessed and reviewed in order to formulate their findings?
Thank you. Councillor Husband of Chester Street North, North Lodge, Pelton, Sacriston, Great Lumley, according to the madness over there. But anyway, can I thank Councillor Hopgood for her no doubt well-intentioned question. And although we were not running the council at the time, to answer the first part of your question, it was of course your Cabinet who formally agreed and considered the participation in the Corporate Peer Challenge on the 15th of January 2025. Anyway, despite being very new in office and happy with our progress in our first 6 months, the new administration agreed to proceed with the peer challenge and to submit the self-assessment at its meeting on the 17th of September 2025. That submission sets out the Council's position and performance with links to various strategies and reports in support of the submission. The peer team undertook a host of meetings whilst on site and no doubt analysed their own performance metrics in reaching their conclusions, which I can remind members included comments such as a new majority administration with fresh perspectives on local government leadership. Okay. The new administration has defined a new set of priorities for the council. There are constructive relationships between members and officers based on mutual trust and respect. The council has continued to move forward with purpose and stability despite significant political change. As for the latter part of your question, you yourself stated in the Northern Echo that you've seen these reviews across the country. Throw in the fact that your members took part in the peer challenge, along with 100 of the peers and 50 meetings, etc., etc. And of course, you're a paid member of the LGA, who chairs a committee, so you know very well how this process works.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah,
Councillor Hopgood.
Yeah, if I can ask a supplementary, Chair. In that case, you're quite right, I do know very well how the process works, which is why I knew that it was in January 2025 that we did request the review, but the work started back in 2024. I also know, and you've just admitted, that the evidence that were given.
Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm coming to the question. Every single report, which is here, all in writing, all evidence-based, around the performance was based on reports and inspections done prior to May 2025. So my supplementary question to the Leader is, will you now apologise for your misleading and false comments made over the past few weeks, where you have continuously tried to take credit for the work of others and said that you requested this report and this review and not the previous administration?
Try and answer that very long-winded question, but I'll tell you how to answer this one. We'll take you to the 10th of October, Northern Echo, and I'll quote you, Mrs. Amanda Hopgood, Councillor Hopgood. Amanda Hopgood, what have they got to hide, was the quote. John Shuttleworth, I can only assume that the feedback from the review body was going to highlight failures by the Reform administration. The whole point of a peer review is to show where improvements can be made. I'm guessing Councillor Husband doesn't want the public to know about the chaotic mess his party is making at DCC.
That wasn't my fault.
That's in the newspaper.
Read it again.
Look, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't listen. Excuse me, who's talking here? You've had your say.
Thank you. You've answered the question.
You can't have your cake and eat it, right? It's very predictable what's happening here. You've got on straight to the attack. Oh, this mess, it's all about reform. Get some good news. Oh, it was all us. It's so predictable. It's so boring.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I invite Councillor Wilkes to ask his question?
Of course, Chair, and I hope if there is any quotes from the past from me, that it is from me and not from Councillor Shuttleworth. In December, Chair, I raised concerns with the portfolio holder about the plan to hike permit parking charges for people to park outside their homes by 40%. It is still in the budget, despite a promise it could be reviewed, and we haven't heard any changes. Could the Leader or Deputy Leader please confirm if they're going to make any changes to this? Thank you.
Councillor Grimes.
Can I thank Councillor Wilkes for the question? Given that it's not actually my portfolio, I am going to let the portfolio holder answer the question. But if Councillor Wilkes would like a one-on-one with me and wants to hear the dulcet tones of my voice, he's welcome to any time.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Councillor Grimes. In the interest of time, I will keep my answer curtailed. The only assurance I gave in that session was to point out, and I've got my words here, I believe I said I would consider Councillor Wilkes' comments and discuss with him in due course if he was agreeable. To my understanding, that meant that Councillor Wilkes would arrange some sort of meeting or contact with me. To date, I've received no follow-up contact from Councillor Wilkes or anyone else.
No way, man. Come on, you know
The
exactly what we were
consideration has therefore taken place, and Cabinet, having discussed the matter, are clear and united on its position. That where a parking scheme exists solely because residents have requested it, and where it operates entirely for their benefit, the full cost of delivering and administering that scheme must be met by those residents. It would not be fair or appropriate for those costs to be subsidised by others who do not receive any benefit from it. All I'll say is, to jump to the end, is that I believe I was brought in and I wanted to be a politician to solve problems, not pass the buck. I will not pass the buck. The people on this side of the room will not pass the buck. I want to deal with problems, not ignore them and pass them down the line. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Wilkes, you can reply. A supplementary question, please, directly.
Yeah,
rises directly out of the
I'll
thing.
not have the one-to-one with Councillor Grimes, but perhaps he could come to the next overview and scrutiny meeting to discuss the budget there for all of us to have a chat with him. Chair, Reform's budget also includes plans to whack business owners in Durham with a £500 parking permit charge to park their vehicle near their shop. Now, small businesses are already being crucified by the government, so a 33% increase, £125 hike in charges for parking outside their business from this Reform Cabinet is another kick in the teeth. So will you review this?
Councillor, I'd like to point out it actually was about residents parking, and you obviously have expanded it. So what is the question, like your supplementary question?
Sorry, it was about permit parking, Chair, and the 40% increase in permit parking charges for residents, but actually the same the same permit charging scheme, they've increased the charge to £500 for parking your vehicle outside your business under the same permit scheme.
Right, thanks very much.
As I don't think that's a supplementary question, Chair, I'll write a written response.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes today's business for the Council. I would like to thank everyone for taking part, and to those members of the public and media who watched this meeting. And I would like to thank you all for the very interesting debates, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.